Howdy, howdy. I have gone over the side effects of Tegretol, which I am second day off of that, and Lithium. So y'all ready for the Lithium side effects first? This is literally just what I've got written down like in the past couple of minutes. So there's a lot more. I just finally decided to write them down to share them with you. Ready? Alright. Restlessness, loss of appetite, weight gain, weight loss, stomach pain, gas, constipation or indigestion, mild thirst, dry mouth, excessive saliva in your mouth, change in the ability to taste food, swollen lips, acne, hair loss, extreme discomfort in cold temperatures, depression, muscle or joint pain, itching or rash, thin, brittle fingernails or hair, hand movements that are difficult to control, which is tremors. And here's some of the more serious side effects. Excessive thirst or sweating, excessive urination, fever, unusual fatigue or weakness, slow jerk movements that are difficult to control, frequent urination, blackouts or fainting, seizures, dizziness or lightheadedness, shortness of breath, fast, slow, irregular, or pounding heartbeat, chest tightness, confusion or hallucinations, crossed eyes, headache, pounding inside head, swelling of feet, ankles, or lower legs, painful, cold, or discolored fingers and toes, drowsiness, diarrhea or vomiting, slurred speech, shaking of a part of a body that you can't control, muscle weakness, stiffness, twitching, or tightness, ringing in the ears, blurred vision, giddiness, loss of coordination. The last two I got on my list are diabetes insipidus and then hypothyroidism. So the diabetes insipidus is a rare disorder that occurs when a person's kidneys pass an abnormally large amount of urine that is insipid, which is diluted or odorless. And then the hypothyroidism, a condition which the thyroid gland doesn't produce enough thyroid hormone. Side effects of hypothyroidism are fatigue, weakness, weight gain or increased difficulty losing weight, coarse, dry hair, dry, rough, pale skin, hair loss, muscle cramps, and frequent muscle aches, constipation, depression, irritability, memory loss, abnormal menstrual cycles, and decreased libido. And that's just what I wrote down for this. Another thing I was doing is making sure I looked up all of the side effects for Tegretol, because as I'm reading this, and I'm like, okay, there's a lot of those I've actually had. A lot of those symptoms I had, but cleared up once going off the Tegretol. So I've had very few of those particular side effects, but doing a little bit more research about Tegretol, apparently Tegretol hasn't been like officially linked to hypothyroidism, but it causes the thyroid. It affects the thyroid the same way that hypothyroidism does. So my inability to lose weight, extreme fatigue. Everybody knows forever all I do is walk around like, I'm tired. Even when I exercise, I'm tired. The whole 9 yards. Inability to lose weight, no matter what I've done or tried. Couple of the other ones that I already forgot. So basically, thyroid was being affected by Tegretol, which I was afraid of those things when reading about lithium initially, and it's funny that I had none of those to fear, because right now, the medication I was on were all of those symptoms. Gone bad with the other medication. But the other medication, I fucked up and never went and got myself tested. You're supposed to do like regular liver or thyroid tests for those, I believe. I didn't have insurance. And getting those lab tests done are expensive, so I wasn't able to. But now I'm going on Monday. I have insurance now. Thanks to my husband. So on Monday I'm going to get tomorrow, I'm going to get my first set of tests done to see where we're at. So far, nothing's going on bad with the lithium. But here's the crazy thing I just found out. So she put me on, tomorrow will be 1 week, she put me on 600 milligrams of lithium twice a day. So that puts me at 1,200 milligrams of lithium a day. I knew lithium like came in larger doses versus like some other medications where it's like 10 and 20 milligrams. But looking it up, apparently the therapeutic dose is somewhere between 900 and 1,200, and she started me off on 1,200. So, I mean, it's working great, but it's one of those, like, no wonder I felt an effect right away. So I'm not quite sure, like, I'm going to talk to her about that, or talk to, I want to see her to the 25th, or the, lab or something. I don't know. It's working great. Like, she did a fantastic thing, and I just didn't know if you could just kind of jump to, like, the highest, like, highest working dose or something like that. But in her defense, she did listen to everything I said as far as how my bipolar is, and I also was able to help narrow it down for her, so I didn't have to tell her the whole history of everything. I was able to give her specific instances on how my bipolar plays itself out. I was able to give her the length of my hypomanic episodes. I was able to describe my 2 full-blown manic episodes in my life, and how I always stayed closer to, like, hypomanic, and I got the dysphoric hypomania. A lot of people hypomania, they get stuff done, and they're so much more outgoing, and da-da-da-da. I didn't get any of that stuff. Mine was bad. So I did work with her in that, so she might be much more confident in putting me there, because A, she knows I'm going to be doing the test regularly. I actually showed up already at her office, like, knowing enough about lithium to where, enough to where she obviously understood that, like, okay, if I do something and tell her to do she'll do the research. So, and I told her, and I was like, I'm not fucking around. I was like, whatever we need to do, like, let's do it. So, and I told her, I was like, anything you throw my way, like, in my own time, I will be taking care of looking into it, making sure the side effects are, just monitoring myself. I will say the only thing I wasn't able to do before was to go get the lab work done. Lithium, you can't fuck around with getting the lab work done, so it's kind of convenient, not planned, that I got married in May, and now I'm on lithium, so now he's the one with the insurance, and it's one of those, like, convenient. It's really convenient how things play out for me. Also, when January, February, March, in March or April, whenever I got hired at the bike shop, that's been the catalyst into making me really understand that my medication was wrong. So it's one of those, like, little random, not everything happens for a reason type of shit, but everything has launched me in a good way to, like, the next step. So it's one of those, I probably wouldn't even have switched the medication if I hadn't got, well, not as soon as now, if I hadn't got the job at the bike shop, in order to really make me understand shit was not going right. And I also, with that, got my medication switch, or, was able to do that, and about that time, it was one of those, like, I'm getting insurance now, and it's good insurance, so it's kind of like, everything kind of lined up properly. So, but now I know better. I'm not gonna, obviously with lithium, you can't fuck around as far as getting your tests done, because you have to stay, like, the right level of hydrated. It can wreak havoc on your kidneys and your thyroid. You can overdose on it, not like overdose like, I'm going to die, but you can take too much, and you can have really bad side effects. You can end up in a seizure, which sometimes leads, like, there's been a couple I was reading about, like, you could be in a coma, there's blackouts, there's all sorts of crazy stuff. The good news is a lot of the negative side effects for lithium were what I was experiencing with Tegretol. So it's kind of funny that Tegretol prepared me for the worst. And now I really know what it feels like when everything's not okay after my first initial treatment. Alright, so I'm gonna make this video longer. You have the choice to watch it or not, so let's just go for it. Back before I'm about to turn 34. I was diagnosed at the age of 30 up in Pittsburgh, so it's literally been about 3.5 years, 4 years, something like that. I know I just said the math and it was easy, but anyway, besides the point. So when I was diagnosed, I was kind of hitting rock bottom in life. Like everything was just kind of going to shit. Like I just had enough mentally, and that's why when I was diagnosed, I dove into it head first. And I was like, fuck yeah, you know, that's why I'm where I'm at today, is because I took my diagnosis seriously and I did everything I had to do as far as educating myself and learning how to regulate myself and all that stuff. And the medication I'm on, the Lamictal and Tegretol, in the beginning were great. You know, I'd never felt better in my life. So as that slow decline happened, what happened between the age of 30 and the age of like 32? The age, but anyway, between being diagnosed and probably a year later, in that time, I got a sense of self-worth. I liked who I was. I found talents about myself that I had no idea, that I felt more capable in life. I felt like I had something to offer. So I gained basically self-worth. I enjoy very much who I am, and that's when I learned it. So prior to 30, I did not. Of course, with mania loves itself, and so when I was manic, I loved Gwen. She was the best. I was the smartest, the brightest, the blah, blah, just whatever. But mania is, it's its own entity. It's its own farce. It's a drug, you know? It's one of those, like, if somebody, when you get high on cocaine, you're not always that energetic. That's not you. That's you being high on cocaine. With mania, it's the exact same thing. It's like, that's not you, but that is, you know, that's a bipolar person on mania. That is our brain's natural cocaine. Most people have to do a lot of drugs in order to get that high, and with us, it's just a matter of, there's like a switch somewhere thrown. Anyway, but even during mania, it's a hollow egotistical thing. It's not even self-confidence, it's ego. It's pure ego, and that's what you're living off of. That's what's flowing through your veins. But that, an ego is not who you are. So when all of that mania finally calmed down or crashed, as it always does, you were left back with how you really saw yourself. And I did not like myself. I did not love at a core who I was. Had nothing to do with what was going on around me. This is talking about, like, you know, you stripped from any identifiable things, the tattoos, the hair, the piercings, any of that, taken out of any environment that, you know, you feel like you can stick me in the middle of Colorado, just, you know, whatever, and dogs. And I did not enjoy the person that's inside. Now, that's what happened. I'm on doing a video. So now the difference, what happened between the age of 30 and like 32, I built up a sense of self-worth. I valued who I was. I discovered things about myself. So when I took the medication and then I really got on top of the bipolar, it was an amazing, eye-opening thing. So fast forward to when the Tegretol stopped working. There's no definite date, but I would definitely say the past 2 years, year and a half, it's been not working at all. Yeah, I'd say actually the past 2 years it hasn't been working. But anyway, so I didn't catch it, the fact that it wasn't working, because I still felt so much better than I did pre diagnosis. I figured how I was and how I acted then, and the bipolar, the way it manifests itself then, was bipolar disorder. So even though the past 2 years I've been going through all these bipolar symptoms, they weren't nearly as bad as I remembered them. Until I realized, and I realized this like about a month and a half, 2 months ago, whenever I started calling around for doctors, I realized, I don't even know how I did it, is that I am experiencing all the same bipolar symptoms at the exact same level as before I was medicated, but just two things made me unable to, I guess, recognize it, because it didn't feel like it did before. One, I had become so good at self-management through the DBT skills. I've been like so amazing at dealing with the bipolar monster that it was never out of control, and it never felt out of control. It was a daily, hourly, minute by minute struggle, but it didn't feel as hopeless and as bottomless as it did before, because when I was hypomanic before, I was trying to ride that high. When I was hypomanic now, I knew I was hypomanic, so I would do the skills in order to manage it. I haven't gone full-blown manic. I haven't hit like the extremes, like really, honestly, hypomania to a higher extent, or mania. And like I've had depression, but like it hasn't been the bottom ends of the scale, because it didn't feel out of control like it did before. I just knew how to handle myself. Like, if your house is on fire and you call the fire department and they can eventually like put out the fire, your house was still on fire. Before my house was on fire, there was just no fire department coming. So that's what it's been like. Second thing, and this got to be the most important, is to this: I did not have that at the core of myself, loathing for myself. I didn't have that ashamed of who I was, or felt like the bipolar disorder was defining. I basically, the foundation that I didn't have before was there this time around. So no matter what happened, no matter how bad it wasn't like before. And that's because I knew how to manage myself, but I also had a sense of self-worth, which I'd never had before. So that kind of great foundation, I thought, was what was going to get me through all of the symptoms and stuff like that. Now I know, like, that's another big learning experience, that like for 2 years my medication hasn't been working. And of course it's gotten worse and worse and worse. Like, going off of it now, going off the Tegretol was doing nothing. It was not working at all. Like, it was doing nothing for bipolar disorder or anxiety, nothing. It was only creating like really bad symptoms. That's what that was. So biggest thing going forward, also with lithium, you can't fuck around. This is as simple as it is. You can't fuck around. So in my not fucking around, I'm also going to make sure that I understand that where I was at, even just like a week ago, about a week ago, that's bipolar. That's bipolar when you have a good life, when you have a sense of self-worth. That's bipolar when you're purely just struggling with bipolar disorder. Before the age of 30, it was undiagnosed bipolar disorder, and the shitty life that having that disorder, not knowing it, gets you. So it's just terribly interesting that now I'm now overly familiar with the symptoms of bipolar because they were the exact same and the exact same level as before diagnosis as they were recently. The exact, like, literally mirror. But now that my head is clear, Tegretol also made you, everything was a fog and you couldn't remember things. So now that my mind is clear and I'm able to really understand the symptoms, I can do like the prior to diagnosis in the past 2 years when the medication wasn't working. It was the exact same problems, the exact same amount, daily, the exact same feeling, the exact same intensity. So it's one of those, like, I really am struggling with bipolar disorder. My life, even though it's like completely uprooted and upgraded, like the foundation, everything is great. Now what I struggle with is purely bipolar disorder, not bipolar disorder in a life that's been controlled by or anything like that. Like, it kind of, I hate to say it, it really proves to me that bipolar disorder is real. Obviously, I know it's real, but I always wonder. I still wonder, because it's that thing that gets in your head, and it's one of those, like, do I really have bipolar disorder, or am I making excuses? Like, is it just a lack of willpower, and it's just easier to say it's a disorder? Like, that pops in my head often enough. And I know better. I know it's bipolar disorder, but still, this kind of before diagnosis, bipolar symptoms and everything, and then now seeing what it is when medication doesn't work. Like, I definitely have bipolar disorder. And that's the thing with the Tegretol, it just stopped working. Like, it just, the only bad thing it did after it stopped working was really bad symptoms. A lot of medications with bipolar, the medications make things worse. They make the symptoms worse, more depressed, more whatever, or mixed episodes. So basically medication, it's like, we know some people, if they have depression, they take antidepressants and it makes things worse. Well, a lot of medications like that as well. Tegretol didn't make anything worse. It didn't make me more manic. It didn't make me more depressed. It didn't give me mixed episodes. It just stopped working. Like, that was it. It's all it did. It just stopped working. So I was always prepared for when a medication was going to, like, fuck me up, or like have a bad effect. I was always waiting, like, okay, what are the new symptoms because of da-da-da. And with Tegretol, there was no amplified or worse symptoms. It just didn't work. But any extreme symptoms that would have been caused by medication, I would have been able to catch. But slowly reverting back to just untreated bipolar, that's how I lived for 30 years. For 30 years, I was untreated bipolar. For 30 years, I had that mentality. Now I just have the skills and the self-worth in order to tackle it again, so it didn't seem as overwhelming. That's the word I was looking for. But now I know what it looks like just when bipolar is now I have such a great perspective now going forward, that I think, honestly, if I wasn't on the Tegretol for so long and I hadn't seen it, like, ceased to work, then I wouldn't have really gained a whole lot from that experience. But also, the biggest thing is the really bad side effects. Tegretol, I'm telling you, the side effects were just intense. So now it's one of those, like, going forward, the Tegretol kind of broke me in. Lithium, I'm just like, all right, we'll do some tests, we'll do this and this and this. And I was like, and all of that, I've gone through to some extent. So that's, as much as it sucked, I really can't be upset that Tegretol didn't, or, stopped working. And I can't be upset that it stopped working and I didn't catch it. Because once again, the fact that I have such amazing self-management bipolar skills lets me know that I have been serious about this. I have been really, really serious. My struggle became very tiring on the inside, but I'm definitely very capable. This lithium is actually giving me more hope. Most people, lithium is the big bad wolf or, you know, the boogeyman under your bed. You're trying to avoid him. You don't want lithium. And a lot of people have taken lithium and it's ended really poorly. So don't let me get that wrong. But for me, so far, lithium itself, as well as the process of getting off of that onto lithium, has been like my fairy godmother. Like I said, I didn't think, you always think of lithium as the worst. I mean, at least I had, even in my understanding and research of bipolar and medications, like you always, like lithium's, that's the worst. It's the end of the road. Only crazy people are on it, and lithium really fucks you up, man. You have to take all these tests and like, even me being knowledgeable before 2 months ago, it was one of those like, I wonder if there's anything else I can, like, that's another thing, is the doctors up north, they're like, if Tegretol ever stops working, go lithium. And I was just like, but that's like saying just set yourself on fire, right? Or making your bipolar worse. Like, isn't that, you know, to me it was like, it was a death sentence. Or it was just like, yeah, you're that crazy, you need lithium. And in fact, my, I won't say who, because I don't want to call him out, but somebody who's close to me all the time, not Matt, who has a very weak understanding of mental health, and medications and stuff. It's a different generation thing. He goes, oh, lithium, and he makes this, like, you know, jokes about being a space case and being all fucked up in the head, and, you know, that's what they give the crazy people. And, like I said, it's a generational thing. Mental health wasn't taken seriously, like, my mom's generation and back. So I'm sitting there and I'm just like, that's, you know, that's how everybody sees lithium, is it's this big bad thing. Only the really crazy people are on lithium, and it's gonna make you a zombie. It's gonna strip away your personality. It's gonna da-da-da-da-da. I have been making these videos for almost a week now, and you can look at this video versus all my other ones. This is when Tegretol is completely gone, and I'm on 1,200 milligrams of lithium a day, and this is the most personality-filled video that you've seen. So there is no stripping away my personality. In fact, it's made it, well, not made it better, but I have my personality back, because Tegretol, I was just struggling too much. I wasn't there. I haven't done my art since like January, February. And even then, like, I was have a hard time painting. I was just uninspired, and I would just get so frustrated. Like, simple things that I felt I should get just weren't happening. And the reason for that is because, just like before, I couldn't do things because it was so loud in here. I spent all of my time and energy self-managing a bipolar disorder that was 24 hours a day. That, like, how can you be creative? How can you paint? How can you come up with new ideas? Like, I couldn't. So it makes sense now, because one of the things when I first got on medication, that's when I started taking Dorian's class. And then it was like, holy shit, I can paint. There's a creative side of me, and it exists, and it's not dead, and it's not useless, and I'm better at, like, just making stick figures. So with that, there was a phrase I heard, and it's 100% true to this day, and for me. And it said, probably gonna remember, I don't remember who said it or the exact words, but it's like, a clear mind is a creative mind. A creative mind is a clear mind. Something to that extent. Obviously, it's not something I, you know, really live by, but it's a phrase, and the meaning of it really hit home. That's why I felt like I wasn't able to tap into, like, real creative power before diagnosis, even though I was obviously creative, is because it's just a mess in here. And so now, the past week, now that day 2 of Tegretol being completely gone, and then, like, the past week of being on lithium, getting off Tegretol, my creativity is just flowing. And it's not a hypomanic, like, creative this, creative that, creative this. it's like somebody put me before on pause. Like I was just put on pause, and then now they hit the play button again. So it's not some new, like, hypomanic of these new ideas, and I'm just gonna like, rebuild the Eiffel Tower. No, this is just one of those, like, it came back, and I'm being able to see things through the artist's eyes that I were talking about before. That's what Dorian taught me, is how to see the eyes through that of an artist. My brain was already there. It can already do these things. It just needed skills to be refined, but then also to have the ability to just stop and see and observe and then create its own. I've got so many ideas that were just dropped because it was too much of a mess in here, but now it's good. So I was gonna do a 1 week update tomorrow, but it looks like we've got our 1 week update today. So things feel pretty good. And I've had some serious stressors lately. Some serious issues that 2 weeks ago Gwen could have easily fucked up her moods for months. And actually did at one point. So I'm able to handle what I need to in a much just calm, collective way. Like I can think, like things don't stress me out as much because I'm able to just kind of like, okay, well, this, and this is how this gets solved, and that's how this gets solved, and it's just one of those, like, it's just, life is so much easier again. You have no idea. You have no fucking clue. Bipolar is, even if you're not acting out or you've got it under control or something like that, fucking go get help. Don't give me this under control, it's like, I respect your ability to take medication, but like, I do a pretty good job of keeping it under control. Not everybody. Bipolar works on a scale. But like, I will say, majority of people, don't give me that shit. Stop lying to yourself. Even after knowing better, I still was able to not lie to myself for 2 years about being okay because I was on medication. But just stop bullshitting yourself. Fucking take it seriously. The people around you will greatly appreciate it. Greatly, greatly appreciate it. Because you don't understand how your reality is being dictated and driven and sculpted by your disorder. You have no fucking idea. So if you know you're bipolar and you're not doing anything about it, you're just doing yourself a huge disservice. And if you are doing something about it, even if you're in the process of trying to figure it out and you're like not anywhere where it keeps you happy, you're doing something about it. This disorder is no fucking joke. It's no joke. So take care of yourself. Because I'm going to take care of me.